damn, I've been looking forward to this one. Hey, how's it going, everybody? Welcome back, happy holidays. Got a small one for you today. I figured Cuphead was not going to be a long game, it's about 4 or 5 hours. But how long I waited for this game felt like an eternity. I remember Cuphead being revealed at Microsoft's conference at E3 in 2014. Immediately, it stuck out to me. Oh my god, what is this, I thought? Look at the animation quality, look at the aesthetic. This looked right out of the 1930s and it's a fucking video game? When and where can I buy this? I was mesmerized just from the look of the game, which was doubly impressive now that I look at it in hindsight, because as the first game developed by newly found indie team Studio MDHR, founded by brothers Chad and Jared Moldenhauer, this was a hell of a first impression. And then the game just vanishes off the face of the earth. Like 2015, 2016, we get a glimmer here and there that the game isn't dead, but I'm like, what the fuck? I want to play this so badly. What's the deal? So the lowdown was, Cuphead's 5-year development cycle, according to interviews and such, was quite a trip through hell. Studio MDHR went through a lot of shit just to get this game out. It was their first game with a super ambitious design, one that I know, as a student of animation, had to be the fucking worst in terms of workload. But against all odds, they stuck to their guns. It's an admirable effort. It's not every day, I think, where game developers have to quit their jobs and remortgage their houses just to finish a fucking game. But they were dedicated, and at last in 2017, Cuphead was finally released to widespread critical acclaim. A classic Cinderella story, and no doubt inspiring to upcoming indie developers out there. The old school aesthetic aside, what kind of game was Cuphead was my next train of thought. With the look it was going for, I thought it was going to be a platformer, and it does have some elements of that, but strangely, it's predominantly a run and gun shooter, akin to classics like Contra and Gunstar Heroes, and it's clear they liked Gunstar Heroes. But the game also has 2D shooting sections that wouldn't be out of place in the Gradius series, or perhaps the Gradius sub-series Parodius. There are Japanese developed games, and then there are Japanese developed games. Seriously, check out Parodius when you get the chance and bask in the total mindfuckery. So we have in one part a run and gun platformer, and another part 2D space shooter. As someone who's grown up with those kind of games, and as someone who's been, while running this channel for close to 10 years, has played Castlevania, Ghosts and Goblins, and Zelda 2 Adventure of Link, I think I'm in for a good time. But will you be? Well, okay, let's not mince words here. Cuphead is pretty fucking challenging. Definitely not the kind of game I would recommend to those looking for a comfortable springtime breeze. It's more suitable to those that enjoy a harsh winter's ball kicking. You and a friend could take control of both Cuphead and his pal Mugman, though for this review, unsurprisingly, I went solo because I don't think anyone around me would like getting kicked in the dick repeatedly. Cuphead and Mugman are out recklessly gambling their time away in a casino owned by the fucking devil himself, and find themselves in a bind when they lose a bet against the ruler of hell and have to pay up for it. Not wanting to lose their souls, Cuphead and Mugman agree to be the devil's muscle, so to speak, and collect the debts of other folks who owed the devil as well. So is either Cuphead or Mugman. The objective is to take a jolly stroll through these 3 separate hub worlds and face off against all the unfortunate saps who are in deep with the Prince of Darkness. Cuphead's almost nothing but boss fights. There's a couple of 2D run and gun segments, this is where most of the Contra elements stem from, but there's only a handful of these compared to the numerous bosses you'll face off against immediately. And these guys and gals are no slouches in any sense of the word. They know they gotta answer to the devil, and they're gonna give you a lot of shit before they bow down. From the start, Cuphead doesn't let up. You have a health meter and can thus take multiple hits, but that won't fucking matter, I can assure you. Your HP is going to drop fast anyway. Cuphead is all about pattern recognition, memorization, old school trial and error. It's about learning what to do and what not to do in order to deliver the final hit and collect that contract. Bosses are not entirely set on what they do next either. There's a degree of randomness on what attack they'll follow up with, and they all have multiple forms that have even more dangerous patterns, so if you're thinking you got it down pat after only 2 or 3 encounters, don't rest easy yet, because you definitely haven't seen everything. Yeah, the deaths definitely piled on, sure enough, but I kept going. And no, it wasn't because, well, I had to because I had to review the game, but no, bitch. This was starting to feel personal. I saw the ins and outs of how this boss worked or how that boss worked, and because of one minor slip up on my end, I don't know, maybe I didn't finish my coffee, maybe I didn't have the proper breakfast, or some other shit like that, I ended up losing the fight, but I jumped right back in. Every time you die, you see how far into the fight you progressed, and whenever I was so close to seeing the next phase, or seeing that I was right fucking there from finishing it, I had to keep going. It was the principle of the thing. That classic mentality, the one that makes you say, yo, just one more time, I'll get you this time, you motherfucker. Gamers of the 80s and 90s know exactly what I'm talking about, and Cuphead exploits that to hell and back to hell. All without feeling cheap, I should stress. With 1 or 2 exceptions, every death felt like my fault, because while bosses are packing all kinds of killer attacks, they're all telegraphed in some fashion, and can be avoided or countered once you learn how it works. There's no impossible to avoid scenario. Yeah, there's a lot of fuck me, I'm gonna die moments, but it shouldn't take you more than, say, 5 minutes to finally decipher a coherent strategy and finally whip their fucking asses. And luckily, it also helps that Cuphead controls damn well for this kind of game. You can aim in all directions, move and shoot at the same time, or hold it steady for a precise shot, and can even do a short dash in mid-air to help with platforming or dodging tricky attacks. He can also parry certain attacks. Anything that's colored pink can be neutralized, so to speak, and when that's done, it fills up your special attack meter. When you fill up a card, you can unleash a stronger projectile, and later on you can upgrade this to an all-out super attack like a giant fuck you laser, a short burst of invincibility, or a fully controllable harbinger of death. Now, I like the parry system as a means of defense, but in the heat of the moment, I feel it's more of a liability than anything else. The one thing I hate the most about it is the short pushback you get when parrying something. I especially hated it during Funhouse Frazzle, a 2D side-scrolling stage with the standard anti-gravity gimmick, so I already hated it in that regard. But to dodge certain enemy patterns or to get the best vantage point, you had to switch gravity from time to time, and you did that by parrying these cards, which was remarkably clumsy. And again, it was all because of that little pushback you get by parrying shit. It left me disoriented, because I see Cuphead going one way and thinking he'll end up here, and instead he goes the completely opposite direction, and yeah, this stage was the low point for me. There was no sense of accomplishment for this one. But again, the side-scrolling segments make only for a small percentage of this game. The bosses are the centerpiece, and thankfully, Cuphead can hold his own in terms of potential arsenal. Now, I thought the standard pea shooter was a fine enough weapon, and the charged super attack that could be aimed in multiple directions was great for making up lost time. But thanks to the coins you can collect in the handful of side-scrolling stages, you could buy different types of weapons and give them a whirl. You're allowed to carry 2 types of weapons at all times, and you can switch between the 2 at any point. I didn't find them all helpful, or at least I didn't see the potential in all of them, but the few I did enjoy, I kept equipped for the duration of the game. The spread shot that didn't have much coverage but was the best in close range scenarios, and later on the charge shot that didn't have auto fire, but a full charged blast ripped these guys a new asshole. The number of boss fights was staggering, but every one of them had a unique feel, I think. Okay, well, less with the 2D shooters because those all had similar strategies and tactics, but that notwithstanding, they still had their own look and feel, and every encounter on the ground was a pure test of dexterity. There was some I was able to read right away, and some I gritted my teeth at just from the sight of them. I hated Dr. Cal's Robot and Junkyard Jive, and the Phantom Express and Railroad Wrath. Even as a fan of 2D shooters, the robot still gave me a pain in the ass, and by the final form he just goes apeshit and fires bullets constantly. The Phantom Express feels like one of the longest fights in the game, and I hated that I could accidentally move the cart back and forth with my parry maneuver when I just meant to hit the other pink objects. That was frustrating. But like the others, there was that euphoria I experienced when all these fights ended. Studio MDHR wanted to pay homage to not only the old school cartoons of the 1930s, but also the old school design of a game that kicked your ass hard, sure, but felt good when you finally claimed victory. But you know, this is always the kind of game that's tricky to recommend, isn't it? Is the game hard? Fuck yeah, it is. But there's more to this game than just the tough but fair gameplay. For the love of God, look at it! The blood and sweat poured into the design here is obvious. And that's just the looks. The soundtrack is top-notch too. A delightful ensemble of energetic jazz and swing that kind of makes you want to dance and sing. Sorry, I just realized that rhymed there. $20 will get you a game that not only rewards your perseverance that, yeah, is a little antiquated, sure, but also gives you a visual love letter to classic Disney and Fleischer era cartoons that I personally didn't grow up with. I was more of a Renaissance kid, but I admire the attention to detail regardless as both a fan of animation and lover of video games. I implore you, whether for the holidays or not, consider adding Cuphead to your collection, and if you happen to love it, please let Studio MDHR know that their hard work has indeed paid off. And with that, I'm jumping from one indie title to the next as I'm ending 2017 with a look at A Hat in Time, which I have a good feeling won't be such a rigorous test as Cuphead, but here's hoping the year ends well regardless. Afterwards, the second Donators Marathon shall begin, and I hope you guys look forward to that. It's going to be a doozy. Well, anyway, thank you all for watching. Have yourselves a fantastic night, a happy holiday, happy new year in case I don't get that video out in time, and take care.